Hello, this is OverlordBou, and we're back with another information video with SAT score. And today, we'll be talking about the top Tier 10 and Tier 9 coal ships you can currently get in World of Warships. So, let's hop over to the armory real quick and take a quick look. So, I'll be going over the Tier 10s, while SAT score will be going over the Tier 9s. And we'll be going over the prices and their unique styles and if we recommend them or not later and down in the video. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the Salem. It is the US Tier 10 CA, pretty much like the Des Moines. It is cost 240,000 coal. It's very similar to the Des Moines, but it has a super heal instead, and it has an inferior 8.5 kilometer radar. Otherwise, it has the exact same hull and guns. It has a very similar playstyle and specializes in fighting other cruisers while giving up utility. It's good in randoms, good in ranked, but not used in carrier CB seasons, but sees uses in COTS since there's no CVs. It is recommended for those who like Des Moines, wants to play USCA without the researching the tech tree line and stat patterns, but avoid if you're a player that wants a ship with a unique playstyle since it has a very similar playstyle to the Des Moines. Now off to the Emblem, which is the German Tier 10 CV. This one costs 264,000 coal. It has a very unique playstyle, which uses powerful HE skip bombers and decent torps with good reserves. It is relatively powerful compared to other CVs. It's good in randoms, best non-ban CV in CBs. Since the FDR, which is the first most powerful Tier 10 CV, and the second most powerful CV, which is the Hakuryu, get banned on the regular in CBs, so this ship is this CV is usually the one that's get picked for the third slot, usually if there is Tier 10 CVs allowed. But the main issue is this ship does get outclassed by the Hakuryu and FDR in ranked. So if you're trying to look for a ranked CV, the FDR or the Hakuryu would definitely be better for that. This ship is somewhat easier to use than other CVs, and I highly recommend it for any CV player. Now off to the Napoli. The Napoli is Italian Tier 10 cruiser. It costs 252,000 coal. It has a very unique playstyle, powerful close combat cruiser with torps and sap secondaries. It's a very forgiving of mistakes, but difficult to use effectively. It's okay in randoms, poor for ranked and CBs, but very fun in co-op. It's recommended for more of its secondary memes. Now for the Yoshino, the IGN Tier 10 Super Cruiser. This ship costs 248,000 coal. It has a very similar playstyle to the Azuma and the other IGNCAs. It uses 20 kilometer Shima torps. Kiting is a strong kiting ship, but highly vulnerable to citadels. It's average in randoms, mediocre in ranked and CBs. I would definitely recommend this for IGN cruiser enthusiast, but generally not recommended as there are other better or more interesting kiting cruisers. Now for the Moskva, the Tier 10 Russian cruiser. The ship does cost 244,000 coal. It is a somewhat unique playstyle, a cross between a Petro and a Stalingrad, heavily armored cruiser specializing at mid to long range combat. It's a normal level of difficulty, average good in randoms, above average in ranked, useful in both CBs and COTS. It's recommended for players who want a long range version of Petro or a viable competitive ship. Now for the final Tier 10 coal ship is the Marceau. It costs 236,000 coal, is the French Tier 10 destroyer. It's somewhat unique playstyle. It has a Kleber hull, but with fast-firing Colbert guns. It's a very excellent kiting ship, high skill floor and high skill ceiling. Good, very good in randoms, good in ranked, excellent for CBs and COTS. This ship is highly recommended for competitive players and also those want a good but challenging ship. It is not recommended for a first tier 10 ship. Now I'll let SAT score cover the tier 9s.
Alright. So for the tier 9 ships, all of them will cost 2000 all of them except for New Tsushima will cost 228 coal. And first, I will be covering the New Tsushima, since she is the exception and costs 296k coal. Uh, she is a Russian tier 9 destroyer. Compared to others, she has a very unique playstyle. She's a highly defensive destroyer, boasting excellent concealment and with a super heal. However, she trades this by having offensively weak but compared to other tier 9 destroyers. She ends up being a very good support ship and a good scouting destroyer, but she also can take 1v1 engagements to other destroyers just because of her super heal. Compared to other destroyers, she's about an average skill floor, but she does have a high skill ceiling, since some players will find it difficult to use her limited offensive power effectively. Uh, I find that many people actually underrate her. She's actually better than what most people give her credit for in randoms. In ranked, she's also a very good destroyer just because she can outlast everything. And of course, because of her super heal and good support capabilities, she's an excellent clan battles destroyer. However, even though I do highly rate her, I do not recommend buying her because she is too expensive. I would recommend just taking one of the other tier 9 ships if you want. So the Kirsarge is one of the newest ships to enter the armory. She is cost 228 coal. She is a US tier 9 battleship slash hybrid kind of ship. And as a result, she has a very unique playstyle. She's essentially a battleship, but has access to controllable rocket planes, similar to how attack planes work for carriers. She has excellent alpha damage thanks to her 12 guns. Her planes provide immense spotting utility, but that flight deck in the middle of her hull makes her very vulnerable to battle damage. And because of that, she actually has a very high skill floor and ceiling just due to the difficulty of using the ship effectively. But overall, she is very good in all modes. Very good in randoms, very good in ranked, and I'm expecting her to become the meta battleship in clan battles, just because of her spotting. And because of that, I would recommend those for those who wants a competitive battleship, and those who want to play a very unique and good battleship. However, I don't recommend it for newer players that lack the experience at high tiers, or those that may have issues trying to control many things at once. So next, we'll move on to the Carnot, 228 coal. She's a French Tier 9 supercruiser. Her playstyle is somewhat unique, being a combination of the French battleship and the heavy cruiser. She can both play as a lighthouse build, farming HE and or AP at max range, or she can take the stealth build and punish ships that show broadside to her with her powerful AP. She is good. I've ranked her pretty good in randoms because of her very good durability. In ranked, she's somewhat okay, but she lacks that utility that some other cruisers may take. And in clan battles, she has some potential due to her durability. Um, so if you're a randoms player, I would mostly recommend the Carnot for randoms, since she is very good at racking up damage if you're accurate with her guns. Next, we'll move on to the Marco Polo, Tier 9 Italian battleship. She has a somewhat unique playstyle. The best way I can describe it is somewhat similar to the Tier 9 Roma, but with SAP and no fuel smoke. You can also think of it as a Lepanto. You could also think of it as a Veneto, a Tier 9 Veneto, but with no fuel smoke. To keep in mind, although her accuracy is 1.8 Sigma, she is scheduled to get a buff at the 10.10 patch, which will slightly buff her accuracy to 1.9. Otherwise, she's rather average for battleships in terms of skill floor and skill ceiling. Her performance is also rather average as well. She's okay in randoms. I don't recommend her for ranked, especially if you have a Musashi or Georgia, and she is okay in clan battles. Overall, aside from the SAP, I don't find her too remarkable. Just nothing really impressive about her overall performance and her playstyle. But if you happen to like Italian battleships, or you want a premium battleship with SAP, then Marco Polo might still be the choice for you. So we go on to Z44, a German Tier 9 destroyer, but she's only German in nationality. She is a torpedo-focused destroyer, and it actually plays a lot similar to Yugumo or Benham, as they throw out torps to discourage the enemy from winning. Keep in mind, even though she is a German destroyer, she does not carry hydro. Many people think she does, and you can use this to your advantage, but remember, she does not carry hydro. Uh, due to her weak state, she will get a concealment buff in 10.10, and that will bring her concealment down to 5.9 at her best detection range. Uh, So, due to her torpedo playstyle, I find that she's a relatively easy destroyer to use, but she also kind of caps out. She has a very low skill ceiling just because she's so easy to use. Compared to other tier 9 destroyers, I find she's just okay in randoms. I wouldn't recommend her in ranked or clan battles because she cannot fight other destroyers, and it will prove to be ineffective in those modes. I would mainly recommend her if you want just a simple torpedo boat. Otherwise, I would steer clear and probably get some other destroyer that will have more impact on the match. Finally, and we have the Pommern, the classic German Tier 9 battleship. She is very similar to the other German battleships, but you can think of her as like a Tier 9 Tirpitz or a Tier 9 Bismarck, but with hydro and torpedoes. She carries a 12 gun arrangement, which is kind of unique compared to the 8 guns seen on the tech tree lines. She has a relatively low skill floor, but also a relatively low skill ceiling. Many players do like to spec secondaries on her, and she is definitely viable in that build. However, I find her performance average at best in randoms because it's often somewhat difficult to get her into secondary range where she performs the best. Uh, in ranked, you might have better advantages, but again, it might be hard just because there's two very good tier 9 battleships, potentially a third if Kirsarge proves to be very overpowered. In clan battles, there's no point in taking her. However, that being said, Palmer shines the most in 3v3 or 1v1 brawls in the occasional tier 9 clan brawl season. So if you happen to be playing clan brawls and you see Palmer on sale, pick it up. You will absolutely wreck everything. With that, I believe we've covered all of the tier 9 and tier 10 coal ships. So Bo, um, as to summarize what we've said, but let's go create a tier list. I'll have three tiers of ships that we can put our ships into. First, top one will be the recommended list, in which players should pick this ship over other ships when possible. Then we then we have the kind of the niche category, where some ships might be better in some areas, but probably will only appeal to certain players of a certain demographic. And then finally, there's the not recommended ships, where we just don't want players to have it because they are weak, maybe not very interesting, or something else. So, Bo, with that in mind, what tier 10 ships do you put in the recommended category?
So for the tier 10s, and for the tier 10 category, I'd recommend the Salem, the Marceau, the Emmeline, and the Mosfa are the ones I'd recommend for the tier 10.
All
Uh,
right.
for the tier 9, it would be the Carnot, and that would, yeah, for the tier 9, it would just be the Carnot. Would be like the
Mm,
ones you want to get.
Yep. I'm gonna add my own one. Kirsarge is gonna be a interesting addition. I would kind of recommend her if you're experienced at the game because she offers quite a bit in a tier 9 battleship. That being said, she is very difficult to use properly. So if Kearsarge is going to be one of your first high tier ships, I would not recommend her until you get some experience. So, but otherwise, I will agree with your decision of the Salem, the Marceau, the Immelmann, and the Moskva.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go down to the second tier, the niche tier, where some players might prefer these ships for specific reasons. So, what ships would you put in this niche tier?
So the Kearsarge would also be in this too because of its difficulty for newer players. The Napoli because it's more of a meme ship. Palmern is also in this as well as the Z44 after the buff, and the Oshino is here as well because it has an okay performance. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for the final category of not recommended, there are two. And the two that are not recommended is the Marco Polo, due to the fact that you're better to take with the it's better for you to just take the tier 9 Lepanto instead of this, and this can be very frustrating at times to play. Even after its accuracy buff, it's still going to be kind of frustrating to play the ship. And the final ship that we do not recommend because it's too expensive is due to the Noshishimi. This ship costs 296,000 coal, even though all the other tier 10s cost 240, 248, 264. Its price is way too high for a tier 9, so we do not recommend this ship because of its price. Now, is there anything else you think we should add, or do you think that's all we have covered for the day?
I think we covered everything, Bo.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, SAT Score. We greatly appreciate. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely leave them down in the video. Leave them down in the comments down below. Well, this is OverlordBou, and I'll talk to y'all later.